Unity is by far the most faceted of all the coordinating principles of design. There are various ways and means for creating unity. Proximity, grouping, overlap, continuity, closure, containment, pattern, and grid. Unity, in and of itself, does not guarantee a successful composition. Like repetition, unrelieved unity can quickly create tedium and boredom. Unlike repetition, however, variety or variation can support a limitless number of interesting outcomes. Discover the most enticing interactions between unity and variation can easily become the passion of a lifetime. Repetition and variation are the cornerstones of rhythm. Let me repeat that again. Repetition and variation are the cornerstones of rhythm. Unity and rhythm are the cornerstone dynamics of visual form. Unity through proximity, or closeness, is clearly on display in this blue note cover by Reed Miles. The album's title, set in red and blue, is very close to the figure's hand. The figure's cigarette seems to control and stabilize the position of the title text. In another Reed Miles design, the featured artist's name, set in red, is placed very close to the letter-formed title, and is, in fact, staggered to accommodate a very tight fit. Unity by grouping is present in two levels. Let Freedom Ring is typeset very tightly to the point where the counter space, that's the negative space within and in between letters, is highly rhythmical. The artist's name is set tight enough to be felt as a whole entity instead of a bunch of individual letters eventually forming a word. Grouping can also be seen at the very top of Our Man in Paris, with the arrangement of featured artist's name, the rest of the ensemble, the issue number, and the company name. This assemblage is a clear example of grouping and repetition in the creation of unity. André Cartège's photo of the Eiffel Tower is an example of an overlap, creating unity in the way the arching shadow connects through repetition the actual structure to the ground below. So in a sense, this shadow, this cast shadow, is sort of a transition from the structured arch onto these rectangular shapes on the ground. Another outdoor poster for Nike uses overlapping to unify four marginally related elements. Overlapping here creates quite a bit of unity. Visual continuity reconnects the interrupted hands and lovers in this image by Man Ray. Physical continuity unites the two outer panels with the phantom panel in the middle. Visual continuity connects the large orange spots as well as the top contours of each outer panel's photographic image. Closure in this case permits the perception of a series to continue without significant interruption. The physical panel is missing, but most everything else is in place. Closure permits the perception of a whole entity despite missing parts. A dotted line would be another example. And you can see closure taking place here in the fact that portions of the parts of the hand are separated, but the visual continuity taking place here, the contour continuation, helps to create unity, but we also see that this part that's missing is of no relevance. In fact, the ambiguity is fairly interesting. We still sense that there is an entire hand. two trees in this winter scene, photographed by André Cartege, are contained by the white areas beneath them. Margins generally act as containment devices, reinforcing unity for both the text body and the other visual elements as well. This powerful, engaging poster for the Hurricane Katrina poster project, designed by Laurie DiMartino, is a prime example of negative space acting as a containing device. This same poster serves as a rich example of the unifying nature of pattern in both the positive and negative areas. The two systems of pattern in this print by Kurt Schwitters, the pattern of dots and the pattern of squares, not only display ample evidence of the unifying power of pattern, but also represent pattern's image-making potential as well. Notice, too, the pattern of negative space that bonds the entire composition in a delicate web of tension. In another variation on the theme of pattern, Kurt Schwitters dazzles again, this time with a looser construction of pattern systems. The negative spaces emerged not merely as a unifying element, but as a pattern dynamically equal to any other pattern systems in this composition. This piece is highly rhythmical. The negative spaces emerged not merely as a unifying element, but as a pattern dynamically equal to any other pattern system in this album cover. This piece is highly rhythmical. Read Miles again. Piet Mondrian's Broadway Boogie Woogie captures the true essence of a brightly lit, vibrant urban landscape. His use of pattern clearly creates an urban pulse. The patterns make the grid active. In response, the grid systematizes all the visual chatter that the pattern provides. This results in rhythm. Giving rhythm to visual chatter is an issue of finding the right mix between order and chaos. Each color has its own organization, its own pattern, its own rhythm. Notice the pattern of negative space. Very alive. This is a detail from Rhapsody by Jennifer Bartlett. Grid systems are organizing structures. They encourage repetition, variation, rhythm, unity, and play. Here's another part of the series by Jennifer Bartlett, again using grid systems. Publishers rely on grid systems. Grids are the skeletal basis behind both print and online publishing. In return, grid systems provide a virtual playground for integrating type and imagery, colors and patterns, lines and shapes.